you, Senator Polley. Senator McDonald.
Clear. Let's be clear, this legislation is an election promise. It's a secret promise. It is a secret deal with the union movement and a secret deal that Australians didn't know about, Australian employers didn't know about, and this is the greatest breach of trust, of faith that could have been delivered to the Australian workforce. The Treasurer said before the election that multi-employer bargaining was not a part of their agenda. Another Labor lie. Because this is only about delivering for union membership. Union movement membership is down to 14%. 14% because Australian workers say, I am not spending my hard-earned dollars on this lack of representation, where my money is hived off for donations, for big fat salaries for union reps who end up here. The union reps end up here, and I would love to know how many of those sitting on the other side have not been on a salary paid for either by workers, hard-working Australians, or by some other union deal. Yeah, show your hands, because I keep looking at the number of how many years? How many years since you've sweated over a mortgage and paying people yourself? That's what I'd like to ask those on the other side, because this is a payoff for donations from the unions. Because unions do not create jobs, government doesn't create jobs except for with taxes, businesses and employers do. Unions reckon this is about feminised workforces to get wages moving. Well, if they were serious about this, this would not be the way they'd go. Multi-employer bargaining is about paying off highly litigious, lawfare-driven unions, like the mining unions, like the construction unions. This is not about women who are working in retirement homes and cleaning jobs. This is about getting big unions fatter. It reflects how out of touch this government is. The talking points is all they know, because if you listen to everyone on the other side, you'll get rolled out about getting wages moving, about the lack of action. Do they ever talk about how tough it is to take out a mortgage, to sweat over how you're going to take income from people who you are earning your income from to pay your workers, to secure their future, to secure your customers' future, to pay your suppliers? Nothing have they said about growing jobs and securing the very people who provide jobs. Medium-sized businesses, not big businesses, are captured by this extreme legislation. The reality of owning and operating a business. What about businesses doing it tough? What about those people? There is no reflection at all for businesses who've been shut down over the last 2 years, businesses who are stressed to the extreme, who cannot find workers, who are working 7 days a week, who cry to me when I speak to them about another public holiday being given by their Labor government, who cry to me about how are they going to do the work for their customers who are coming in, who they feel so passionately about. How are they going to provide enough work and enough income with their limited workforce to pay the bills, to pay the wages, and still be treated like the big end of town? Who's thinking about them? Because it's not this Albanese government. It is not them. It is tough. There are low margins. There are higher electricity costs. There are higher fuel costs. Transport costs are crippling businesses, higher costs of food. The uncertainty of this legislation will be the last nail in the coffin of so many of those businesses. I've got letters from small businesses and medium-sized businesses across Queensland. Sally says she will have to review staffing to stay below the 20-employee threshold or sell the business. She already pays staff above the award wage. She is heartbroken, and after dealing with COVID disruptions, over-regulation and taxation, she does not need this as well. She actually named Senator Pocock as the Judas of small business. Leslie, another small business owner. Restaurants, cafes and catering businesses were some of the hardest hit venues during the COVID pandemic and now face crippling staff shortages. The rise in costs and supply chain disruptions now is not the time to punish business owners. Multi-employer bargaining is impractical and alarming. It would introduce a uniformity in an industry that is by its nature diverse, creative, innovative and constantly changing. And Leslie finishes with, please save the 58,000 restaurants, cafes and catering businesses and their 357,000 employees across Australia. I don't hear the unions talking about those business owners, those women. Another small business owner. The rush of this bill is extremely concerning. At present, every business is short-staffed and facing difficult circumstances. We are all trying to find our feet after COVID, and to rush through a bill without adequate understanding from the business community is unreasonable. This is another issue where employers will be forced to enter into a new agreement within 12 months, creating disharmony, hardship, costs and upheaval at a time when that is the last thing that is needed. This proposed workplace changes represents the most radical shake-up of Australia's industrial relations system in decades. Labor has made it clear they want to hand over workplaces to the unions. This breach of faith with the Australian voter and Australian businesses large and small, who took the Treasurer at his word when he said last year that industry-wide bargaining was not part of Labor's policy, and at a time when businesses are doing it tough. They're struggling. They're struggling with staff shortages, rapidly increasing power costs, and union masters will not make it better. I know that in Townsville alone, the number of small businesses that are closing or are up for sale is increasing every month. I had my hair cut the other day and the hairdresser said she no longer employs anybody. She doesn't even have an apprentice after the last dispute she had with an employee who it went through. It cost her $50,000 in legal fees for it to be thrown out of the court. This small business owner, all of her savings gone because we are not a country that values employers anymore. We don't value the people who take out the mortgage, who stress over how they're going to make ends meet, because we've got those on the other side calling late payment on superannuation wages theft. What would they know about struggling to make cash flow stretch? Unfortunately, the minor amendments between Senator Pocock and Labor does nothing to ally the concerns of small and family businesses across Australia. These businesses will still be forced to bargain against their will as part of the supported bargaining stream. Businesses with more than 20 staff will still be able to be dragged into multi-employer agreements with their much larger competitors. And we've seen the modelling for how much the regulatory impact statement reveals that bargaining costs will impose on small and medium and large businesses. This bill will lead to more strikes, more job losses, more uncertainty. This is a sledgehammer to crack a walnut. This is nothing about productivity. This legislation does not mention productivity. All it mentions is wages growth without an understanding that somebody has to pay the bill. And I don't see anybody on the other side with any understanding of the stress of paying the bill. How much fairness is there in it for the people who take the risk, who mortgage their home, who employ and create these jobs? How much fairness is it in it for them? People who rely on the structure of awards, who rely on the structure of predictability, because you're right, there's not an HR department for a business of 20 people. There's probably not an HR department for a business of 100 people with a 3% margin and every week struggling to pay the bills, the ever-increasing bills. So not only is this attacking medium business, small business, guess what? we're going to take on the very businesses that pay the royalties and taxes and the incredibly high-paid wages in mining. Because it is mining who is going to have to pick up the pieces. It is always mining that Labor turns to for more taxes. Up to 33,000 jobs, and remember, mining jobs are on average double the average Australian salary. The average Australian salary is $90,000, and mining jobs are double that. The administration clerks in mining companies are on double that. Truck drivers are on double that. And yet they're the jobs that this is going to risk. 140 projects worth $77 billion at risk. And of these projects, 46 are critical minerals. Apparently we need critical minerals, but not under this government, because they say one thing to industry, another thing to suit the unions. This will cost not just the business owner, this will cost the taxpayer, because for every week of strikes and lockdowns, it is millions, hundreds of millions in royalties, in company taxes, in PAYG salaries for these workers. In the last 20 years, employment in mining has tripled, wages have doubled, benefiting hundreds of thousands of Australians, especially in regional areas. And mining companies themselves are saying these changes will slow down Australia's energy transformation, and that while we need more lithium for batteries, more copper for solar panels and more cobalt for electric vehicles, not more uncertainty and risk that will chase away investment. Rio Tinto. Simon Trott says, I do have concerns, serious concerns about the legislation as it is currently drafted. It will be a handbrake on economic growth. It'll be a handbrake on productivity and ultimately a handbrake on wages and the rest of the economy. Hancock Prospecting Chief Executive Gary Court said a 6-week period of strike action at Port Hedland would cost $9 billion in lost iron ore export revenue and an estimated $551 million in lost mining royalties to the Western Australian government. That is a 6-week strike period. If this bill were to pass in its current form, it would open the door to a confrontational industrial relations system that will cripple our industry and result in poorer wages outcomes for our workers. And finally, BHP. And I know those on the other side don't like hearing from these big employers who employ thousands of Australians and pay them more than double the average wage, who pay the royalties and the company taxes that allow us to have roads and schools and hospitals. But I'm still going to quote them. From BHP, Mike Henry says there is simply no case for multi-employer bargaining in the mining industry. This is an industry where the current approach has been working well. Wages have been on the move. We are a business that competes globally. It's just so essential that Australia remains competitive, and any aspects of the legislation that run the risk of reducing flexibility, giving rise to increased industrial action and so on, that's all going to harm Australian competitiveness in our sector. So if this was truly, as Labor likes to say, if this was truly about the feminised workforce, if this was truly about low-paid workers in our society, if this was truly about allowing more people more flexibility to get their kids to school and care for people, this would not be the way you'd go about it. This would not be the way you go about it. This would not be, because this is the way that you will threaten. You will threaten the jobs of thousands of Australians as small business owners shut their doors, as they say, enough. We cannot keep paying for the social demands of this Labor government. We cannot keep paying for the union demands, the union payoffs of this Labor government. And so, as Senator Brockman said, for every job that is lost, for every small business and medium business that closes its door, for every mining company that doesn't reinvest in this country and goes offshore, for every electricity transmission project that does not proceed because of this legislation, for the millions and billions of royalties that are lost because of this legislation, it is on this government's head.